So let me reduce this terminal. So I was saying that we are working on a microservice, and we have a JavaScript application right here that we are going to push to its own individual repository. Then we also do have another application for Python, and we shall also be working with it right here. Then we do have another repository that we are calling centralized workflows. And right here is where we shall, this will be like the command center for all the workflows that we are working with, right? So every time you're using Git or like in GitHub, again, depending on the culture that you have set up in your team, I have worked with and seen people who only work on the main branch, right? Like you go to GitHub, you clone main, you do your change, you push it upstream. You don't care what happens after, it's none of your business. I've also seen people who create a dev branch, then they work on dev, they test if everything is okay, they go ahead and they push it to main. In this instance, or for this like demo, and this is not a standard procedure, so you don't have to take it for a gospel truth, but this can be a best practice, whereby when you have branches, you have one source of truth, which I like to call the dev branch. So yes, create a repository. A repository is created with a main branch. So from the main branch, I get checkout to a dev branch. After I check out to a dev branch, I make that my default branch, right? It would mean like every time I'm to clone a repo, I will automatically clone the dev branch. Or if a person clones my repo and then they want to introduce a change through a PR, that PR will treat the dev branch as the best branch, not the main. So in this instance, we are trying to follow this flow. This is what we have defined here, is the fact that for the culture that we are establishing for this demo, number one, before you work on any issue or something, there has to be a way to track it. And how do you track that? Earlier on, we spoke about a GitHub issue. So have an issue created for it. Then go ahead, you clone the branch. And we've already said that in this instance, we are treating dev as the main source of truth. So meaning when somebody is to clone our repository, they will automatically get the dev branch. When they get the dev branch, you have to branch off to a feature branch that you can name whatever you like, put your change on it. When you put your change on it, you push it upstream. After pushing it upstream, make a PR that is going to target the dev branch, because that is our source of truth. We are saying if something is already in the dev branch, we are comfortable with it. But how does it get there? Somebody has to create a feature branch of it. Then they make a PR to merge into dev. Then when dev is fine and everything is okay, we can go ahead to merge into main. So in our workflow, the most important thing is create an issue, clone the repository, then make a future branch, merge it into dev. This is the second pointer that I'm speaking about, the second point. So in this regard, the main branch is not even something that you have to actually think of. So we are going to deal with the main branch if only we are ready to make a release on GitHub. We are saying that we have done our checks, the dev branch is okay. We are ready to put the good out there, all the software for the end user. That's when we shall be doing the main branch. This is important, you shouldn't forget it for like the demo later on. So some of the things that I've spoken about, there has been issues, PRs, milestones. I think I can show you how this comes into play. For example, if this is our GitHub page, are you able to see properly behind there? Yeah. So we started with the issues. So basically, this is the UI for GitHub. I'm sure you are very conversate with it. Then we have our issues here. So the issues are some of the things that we want to actually work with. The manual way of creating an issue is when you come to an issue, you say, I want to create a new issue, I give it a title. Then when I come to a description, you give the will and power to whoever is creating it. Again, this will come into play when we get to the templates. For example, in one of the repositories, we have automated this. So when you come to create an issue and you go to create a new issue, we have our templates defined. You can see if you want to report a bug, you want to report a failing test, you want to request for a new feature, we have all these predefined in our repositories. And why I spoke about it is the fact that here we are driving the end user in a direction whereby we are getting the information that we need. Whereas in this repo, you're giving a user the power to blab whatever they want to, even that which you don't need. In this repository, we are saying that every time you come to report a new issue or a bug, we are saying, give us the title, describe it, maybe, is it a bug or you just want to enhance something? For example, this is one of those things. Alternatively, if you want to request for a new feature, you come for a feature request, then it will also, like the information that is important to us, tell us what request you are requesting for and what feature you are requesting for, describe it in a way, how will you be able to use it, then also go ahead and you give it a label. So enhancement means, yes, we have it already in our setup, but maybe you can go ahead to build on top of it. If it's a new feature, it means this thing doesn't exist anywhere. So it's something that you're going to build from scratch. Is that fine? Do you see the distinction between these two? Like if you define a template for an end user to use, and here you're just giving an end user power, they write whatever they have to write and then they create. So this might not necessarily be clear. However, in this instance, if let's say you're requesting for a new feature, I might not even read the description, but I will want to know the use case. Why do you want this? So even if I don't read what you have described, I'm able to come and see you want this because you'll be using it in this and this instance. The other thing I want to speak about and show you has been milestones. So milestones do reside under issues. For example, if you come to an issue, you see we have milestones here. So think of this as the first milestone. For example, in the demo that I'm going to do, the milestone, we want to make a version 1 release. And a version 1 release, again, a milestone is like you're setting a goal for yourself. When you do this and you click on it, issues automatically will live under this. So you can have a number of milestones for what you want to achieve and the different issues that match that under that specific milestone that you are working with. I hope that's fine. Next are the projects. When we come on the projects, if you don't have any project like described, if you don't have any which has been created, this is what you will be seeing and the ability. But in this case, for this demo, I've said that we have already created a project that we are working toward. And remember what I said, a project is just there for us to be able to visualize and track. So it can be the traditional Kanban, whereby you have a number of fields, you have your to-dos, you have in progress and done. So in this way, you're able to come and track that we have a milestone of something we want to go ahead and we release. And under that milestones, there are a number of tasks and all the tasks are defined here. So I can be able to come and know that, yeah, we have these which are done, we have none in progress, and we have some that haven't yet been worked on, which are in the column for to-dos. That's it about the project. I hope it's also clear. If you have a question along the way, please feel free to interrupt and ask. I'll be able to answer. Next, we go to a wiki. If we are to look at our Python repository here, when we go to a wiki has nothing defined, right? But in our JavaScript application, where a tech lead has really been doing their work, where is it? It's JavaScript. Just a minute. Let me show you the wiki that I'm working with for this demo. So assuming we have a product owner who has told us that I want to be able to track the issues that have been worked on and those that are not, and those that are yet to be worked on. I have decided to automatically use a wiki in that every time an issue is closed or a PR is merged, this is automatically repopulated for you to know. So if we come to the project here that we were working on, and we go on the task, you can automatically see in the to-do we have 4. So back to how we are using our wiki. A product manager doesn't have to go back on the board to check what is in progress and what is yet to be worked on. We are using automations and workflows to set this up automatically, in that whenever an issue is closed, this is automatically repopulated for us. So we are able to see the tasks that are done and track it in a way that works for us. This is not the only use case for a wiki. And again, as I have said, it's something that you can use for documentation in a way. I told you about the handbook and being able to use it as a culture. For example, let me show this from the OpenMRS repo, infrastructure repo that we work on. When we come to a wiki, this is indeed our handbook. You see, it is like some form of a documentation that you use. So a wiki is more like an independent repo on its own. If you clone my repository for JS, you don't automatically get a wiki. A wiki has its own that you have to also clone. You repopulate, you put in your code, then you push it in there. But for this demo, we are going to use the concept to automate like stuff whereby, like every time we close a task or do something like that, this is automatically repopulated for us. But as you can see, some of the examples here, here we use a wiki to say, okay, you're new on the team. We are trying to get you started. You don't have to get into the documentation to dig it up from some other source, but just get to our wiki and see how we set up our services from A to Z. The other thing that I spoke about in the slides that I want to show you are the templates and how they are made. So in our JavaScript, remember we spoke about GitHub workflows and where they reside in the .github folder. So every time you go to any repo and you see this folder called .github, this means that there are workflows that have been set, or there are tasks that have been set to run on a routine. And some of the things that can live in here, remember we spoke about the templates for issues. Remember when I was going to create an issue, so this is where they have been defined. You just create a folder called issue template and you define there your things. These are just minor examples that I used. So define them as YAML, but when a person goes to create an issue, they will be getting the field for them to be able to populate what they need to see. Next in line in the .github folder, there has to be a workflows folder. So workflows folder, again, you could tweak this like whatever way you make, but the standardized and procedure, we have a workflows folder, and these are the workflows that we have set. We have a release workflow, we have a continuous integration workflow, and this basically, if we are to get into one, so this workflow is triggered whenever a pull request is made, And you can see the most important thing that we run is we run our npm install, and then we run our tests. This means, as a check, you're working on a team, and what you've set out for is, before we introduce any change into our dev branch, this has to be run. And if the dev branch is protected in a way, it just means that you can't push to it directly. Changes have to come in through a pull request. So here on the on, what we are doing is that we are defining a way to say, every time a pull request is made, let this routine file or action get into it and run against the changes that have been created. Then we have another file here for the dev. Now, if you remember speaking about the packages, so this is where the packages are coming into place. For example, if we get onto, let me use this same one. If we go back to our repository, and packages and releases, every time you come in the side here, you see releases and the packages. So the package that we are working with in this instance is that every time a pull request is made and we accept the change and we merge it into dev, a Docker image has to be built. So that way, when a Docker image is built, we get it as a package that we can easily reuse across our systems and components, but also an end user is able to go ahead and they use it. So in this case, remember I spoke about the principle of you have to trace each and everything if you're really doing DevOps right. So for us to be able to trace a Docker image that was built at a specific time, we are saying that we are tagging that Docker image with a PR number, so that if we want to know when a Docker image was built, we are able to get into a PR9, look for it with a commit hash that starts with 6. You can play with this whatever way you want. You can target, let's say your name, you can target with any code that you're comfortable with using as a release candidate or something like that. So this is for the dev branch. And again, this can be optimized further to say, I have one workflow, I'm running it for both branches, but I made it easy here to show that even if you have two, one for the dev and one for the main. So the difference is that for the dev branch, it is only triggered when we push to the dev branch. This workflow will come into action. For the main branch, will only be triggered when we merge into main. Why is it main? Because at this point, we are ready to make a release. We have tested our software, everything is working as expected. So when you merge to main, go ahead, make a release, and you tag it with the latest tag, right? You tag it as the latest. So meaning if a person is to pull a Docker image, if they don't specify a tag to show that they want to work with a dev branch image, the latest will automatically be pulled and they will be working with the officially released code that we bundled into a Docker image. We also spoke about the code owners file, if you remember. Here we are saying that in this repository, I'm an owner. So yes, you can define this, but depending on how you use it, it can be of help or not. So after I declare my code owner file, I can go to a PR and say every time a PR is made to merge into a specific branch, I want the code owner to approve. If the code owner does not approve, I don't accept that change unless you forego that, which will be like you're breaking your culture or something like that. Then we have a pull request template. So again, remember with the issue for templates here, we are saying that we are directing a user or a contributor towards the information that we need. When you make a pull request, why are you making it? What did we change? And if you remember our GitHub workflow that we have defined here, you don't work on a future branch without an issue, right? So meaning every time you are to make a pull request, there has to be an issue. And this issue and this PR must seek to close the issue that you have automatically created. This comes in handy because it is what actually populates our the wiki that we have seen. So every time you use the closest keyword, the wiki will automatically move a ticket from to do into done. So we are saying before you bring in your change, have you created an issue for it? Yes. What did you change? Why are you doing this? And before you seek to bring in your changes, help us tick some of these things. Have you been able to test it on your computer? Does it work? Do you have a deployable development environment where you're saying that I tried to run this and then, yeah, it worked as expected? Or maybe you had to comment out code, and so the changes are actually minor. You don't need to like run or test anything. Since it is a JavaScript application, npm install has to be working. Otherwise, the product will break or the code will break. Then the other important thing is that the code that you have added, it has unit tests and the documentation has been done. Again, this takes us back to DevOps as a culture. As I have said, there is no standard way of saying DevOps is done like this. If you don't do it like the way we do it here, then you're wrong. No. But what I'm doing here is the fact that I'm trying to mend and come up with something that, yes, on our team, this is what we regard to be important before you bring in a change, and everything has been automated for you. So for an engineer, for me to be able to bridge the gap between a developer and me of ops, you as a back-end engineer, just work on your branch, push the code, merge the PR. My responsibility and role will come in from what I have already automated right here to build for you whatever things you need. I hope that is also clear. The other things is branch protection. So branch protection is always done in the settings. Again, this is what I defined to be more like a vault. So when you go to your repository and you go to settings, there is what we call branches here. So these branches, again, remember our two main source of truth, we have dev and the main. This is what we regard important. So we are saying that when we protect this, when we protect the dev and the main branch, for us as a company, we okay. If you are to create your future branch and do whatever changes, trash, break code, whatever things that you're doing, we don't come to limit your future branch here, okay? So do whatever changes you want, but we know when you make a PR to seek to merge your changes in dev, then our branch is protected and we have a set of defined rules that we shall have to sieve your code against to know if it actually does what, if it qualifies. So GitHub provides you with set or already in a predefined rules. For example, when we are working with a dev branch, require a pull request before merging. If I untick this, it would mean you clone my dev branch, you push immediately. But here I'm saying, no, you don't introduce your changes into the dev branch without necessarily creating a pull request. And when you create a pull request, it has to have an approval, which is 1, but you can set this to 3, 4, 6, whichever number you want. I think it has a limit actually, yeah. Whichever number you want. Then the other thing that we are making use of is require review from code owner. So this is where the code owner's file is to come into place. So we are saying when a code owner's file has been defined, before I approve this, it won't be merged. Otherwise, I can make a pull request and 4 of you approve. But if I'm the code owner and I have not yet approved this, the ability to merge won't be there. So the power with this is that you're being able to control the quality of code that you're bringing into your repository. And that way, you're able to check and be sure about whatever you're doing. Then require status checks to pass. This can be like the workflows that you have. For example, require branches. For example, if I'm to add a check, you saw one for running tests, I'm able to come and define them here. It means if this check fails and everything else is okay, still the branch won't be merged. But if the tests fail and the code owner approves, then you can go ahead and you merge the branch. But remember, something will be broken in the setup somewhere, right? Then the other things, you make a PR, and when you make a PR, I do make for you a comment somewhere there before you go ahead to have it addressed or fixed. Then that won't be you won't be able to merge. Some of the things that we looked about, you remember, assigned the commits here. You can also be able to set it as a rule to say before you merge into my dev branch, your commits have to be signed. And the beauty about it is that you're trying to prove identity. You really want to tell that when a commit came in, it was signed to show that person so and so, who they prove to be they are, and they're the ones who initiated that. The other thing is the lock branch. So the lock branch, you do, for example, in our use case, we can do this on main to say we are treating dev as the source of truth. So when it comes to main, we can lock it in the meantime. It means even if you make a PR, then you won't be able to push to it. Why? Because the branch is locked. But if you untick it and you require a PR, then yeah, well and good. You'll be able to go ahead and do it. And you make a PR and your changes will be merged into it. Then lastly, I think we can look at the verified commits. So if I'm to go to any repo I can think of, for example, I go to GitHub and go to check any of their repositories, right? Assuming I want to check LevelDB, I don't know what is in LevelDB. So if I go to LevelDB, it has a number of commits. When I go to commits here, are you seeing the difference between a verified commit and that which isn't? This shows you that this person set the use of the GPG keys on their laptop, and whenever they make a commit and they push it upstream, it will be able, you'll be able to get a badge of honor to show that, yeah, you have set up a commit, and whoever made this push, they were verified that, yeah, indeed, they're the persons who made it. However, when you look at this commit, which is not verified, it could mean I found your computer open, I cloned the repo, I did something, and then I went ahead to push it. It's something that I can do from any computer I can access, but this way I'm able to really know and tell that if this person, like if this a guy had to push this commit and it broke our workflow, we are able to tell that indeed you are the one who came and pushed this. And why? Because they have the verified thing here. This isn't really used by many people, but it's something that I've been practicing at least 6 years or so. Like every time I'm set to be a maintainer on any repository or whatever it is, I love to set this up. So it's just a good check to know that, yeah, you have security at the core front, but also if it's for us to prove that, yeah, indeed, you made a contribution, you trust it, and the fact that you had to sign it with your own public key is enough confidence for me to know that, yeah, if it was done by so and so and the commit is a published one, there is a kind of leniency that you will get. So back to our repository, if we come to JavaScript to see what I've been working on, if I go to our commits, you will notice many of my commits are actually verified. And this is because I have it set up. Again, the beauty when you go to the settings and you want to check or you want to set the branch protection rules, If you're the kind who is tough and you don't want anything to come in before a person is actually verified, you can enable this in that if a commit is verified, then it will be able to come. Meaning, if you commit without setting this up, your changes will never come in. So you have to set it up automatically. Are there any questions so far? I haven't given chance to ask questions. Is anybody with a question to what I've discussed, or we proceed? Okay, I'll take the silence for a yes. So we had briefly looked at the project that we are going to do. So we have the JavaScript code, we have the Python application, and also we have another repo where we are storing our workflows. Remember here, we are looking at the idea of centralized workflows. If you're working on maybe a project that's to be used and it has probably 79 or so microservices, and you need to run tests in each one of them, it would mean if you are to do it in a manual way, you have to get into each repo, add it manually. But for centralized workflows, like what we are saying is the fact that when it comes time to sync this, you are able to list your repositories. So assuming I have a good number of them, I can list them here. This can also be an anti-pattern in a way, in that I'm defining them directly. It would mean the more the repositories, the longer the file will be. So an iteration on this can be, I define a repos.txt file, I paste in all my repos, then I set this to read from it. That way it is a cleaner solution and everybody is able to find what they are looking for. But anyway, in short, what this does is every time I'm in the workflows repo and I make a change to any workflow, for example, verifying that for example, this will verify that your signed commit has been set. Every time I come and I make a change, for example, I add a comment or something that is in here, the sync workflow will look out for the change and propagate that file change to all repositories that have been set. That way I'm saving myself time, but also I'm easily reproducing that change across all the other repositories. So look out for a change in any of these. When you do find the change, clone the repositories that have been done here, create a branch. After creating a branch, add the change that has been done in the centralized workflows, create a PR in those individual repositories that have been defined, and let them review and merge. So you can see I'm not repeating myself, change once and all changes are going elsewhere. So the other things that I have here, I'm labeling my PRs and I'm also doing PR conversion. I haven't spoken about the conventional. If let's say you want to commit something, you can be able to make a person tell what is it that you're bringing in. For example, if I'm doing a commit and then I say git commit, I prefix it with a test or docs or whatever it is, the person will be able to know that, yeah, if it is docs, I'm doing the documentation. If it's tests, I fix the tests. If it's whatever other thing that I have defined. So just for you to note, in this demo, we have prefixes that we are allowing. We have the build, we have the CI, we have the docs, we have the future, fix, maybe performance testing, I'm making a refactor, style, test, and the future exclamation. This future exclamation is mostly used when you are introducing a breaking change. If I do just fit, meaning I'm implementing something new, but every time I prefix it with an exclamation, and this is actually like standardized across the industry. Huge exclamation, it means this is a breaking change. What is a breaking change? A breaking change is a change that will change the core of an application or a system. If I have an application and I'm using a DB of Mongo, I wake up one day and I decide Mongo is not working for me. I want to use another database. That is a breaking change. It's because I'm changing the core foundation of the application. So whenever I'm prefixing it, fit exclamation. But if I have my application, I have authentication set up, and under authentication, I can only log in, but I can't log out. Then I can set this to just a future. So I'm building on to what is already there. Do you get like the difference? We shall be using this to depreciate when we are making a release. So take note of it. The other thing that is worth noting when we get back to our JavaScript is that here we have set up a small application. I have already showed you the dev workflow that builds a Docker image on pushing to dev and main on pushing to main. When I push to dev, for easy traceability, the tag that I'm using is the PR hash commit and the PR number. So every time a PR is merged to dev, get the number of that PR. If it is PR number 9, get the hash commit that was created, then go ahead, build the image target that way. It would mean if an end user or if a team member is trying to work with a certain Docker image and it's not working, I'm able to easily trace and know by going to look for that PR, by looking for that PR number and the hash commit that has been set. Then when it comes to main, since we don't merge to this like a number of times, but also in this instance, we are saying that we only merge to main when we are going to release the software. So main can be tagged with the latest, and latest to mean this is the latest image. It has functionality that has been tested to perfection. Whenever you pull it, you will get the new cores that we are working with. So to be able to demo how this works, we have a number of to-do tasks here, right? The number one is implement a new feature, comment code, and have it merged into dev, then go ahead to release a patch. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of tagging the conventional way. There is what we call a major, a minor, and a patch, right? If I'm working, yes, exactly. The semantic versioning, thank you. If I'm working with a major, if I'm on version 1.0.0, if I do a major, I'm bumping to 2. I bump the first. If it's a minor, I move from 1.0.0 to 1.1.0. I automatically bump the second, right? And if I'm doing a patch, it would mean that the change is definitely insignificant, so we can target on the last. So the number one thing is implement a new feature. It is insignificant in that we are going to comment out code, we have it merged into dev, and then we release it as a patch directly. So just a preamble, we have a release workflow set up. And this is only triggered when we are merging into main. Again, remember, when we merge to dev, just a Docker image is built. Merge to main, we are making a release official. So this release workflow will only be triggered when we merge to main. And some of the things that we are interested in is how we version bump. That brings us to this point. You see this? This is important because it is what we are going to consider. Again, we go back to the DevOps culture. This is not standard, but we are saying that every time you make a PR and you prefix it with future exclamation, you remember we are doing a breaking change, right? It would mean when you do this bump the major, maybe we are changing a DB, or we are maybe introducing something that will force us to refactor a major part of our code. So when we are making a release, what we are using as a condition is the PR prefix. You're saying if the prefix is feature exclamation, bump the major. If it is just a feature, bump the minor. And if it is a fix, a refactor, a show, docs, test, or whatever it is, bump the patch. So when we look at the task at hand, it's saying implement a new feature, comment code, and have it merged into dev and release a patch. This automatically tells us that when we are making our PR from dev to main, we shall be using one of these. So the release flow will automatically pick it up and know that we are going to make a patch. Is that clear? Great. So getting into doing the task, again, I'm reiterating this so that you don't, so that you know this is not the standard. So if this is a company, I'm saying this is what is going to work for us in this time. It is not a solution you may find out there. However, we sat and said, if we do this for the culture that we are going to build and we understand each other, every time you check a PR and a prefix, know what you are going to bump automatically. But also, most importantly, as we do this, we remember our GitHub workflow. We don't work on a new feature before we create an issue. We only introduce the change on a feature branch that we seek to merge into main. So that culture is also embedded. So this brings me to like start the task. As I start the task, I go back to our board and then I create a task here that is called comment code, right? This is our first to do. So this task is more like an issue. Again, you're seeing how the automation is coming into play. When I click on creation, I have predefined templates. What kind of issue do you want to create? And then I say maybe it is a development item. In this case, I can say comment code has already been put for us. And then what needs to be done? I can say I need our code to be commented, right? Then I can say the priority, it's definitely low. Remember, it is an insignificant change. So the beauty of the templating is that we are getting the information from you that we need. So if I am a tech lead and I see a new issue has come up and the priority is low, I might not give it my time in the moment if I have some other things that I'm working on. We are getting information that we need from whoever is creating the issue. And this is basically a chore. So I go ahead and I create this. So when I create this, this has been created and the issue number is what? 41. You remember the PR template that we have? Whenever we have a closing keyword, so we shall say this will go to close issue number 41. Whenever it is merged on the wiki, it will automatically be moved from to do to done, right? So once we have created this, we come to our code now, JavaScript. We are already on the dev branch. Best practice before you create a feature branch, just always seek to pull. Somebody might have done changes that you need. I don't know if the guys behind us saying this. Just good practice to pull. So once we have pulled, we create our branch, git checkout -b. Another thing I forgot to tell you about is that I'm supposed to be typing git checkout, but I set an alias into my system whereby I don't have to do all this. It is a good thing that I would recommend you do, especially if you use this like quite a while. So git checkout has been abbreviated for me as GCO, git checkout -b. Then I name my branch. What is my branch? Code comment, right? Code comment. So from our workflow, I was already on the dev branch. I didn't want to miss out any changes. I first pulled it. I have created my branch. After creating my branch, I get in here to do my code changes of what has been put for us. Let's say I come here and then I want to comment something and then I push trigger. and this is worthy for a comment. Then I say this workflow will be triggered, when a push to dev branch is made, right? So I have done my change that was required of me. I am on the future branch. I have already created the issue. So what happens? It's time to track my changes. So you remember the difference between Git and the GitHub. Here I'm working with Git because it is on my local computer. So I have it installed, Git status, which I have again abbreviated to like GST. This saves time for me. Git status, I can see that, yeah, this indeed is the file that I have made. So conventional commits come into play. I say git commit, which I have already abbreviated. Git commit is GC for me. I set my message. If you had the signed commit set up, but you hadn't yet uploaded the keys to be automatically picked out, you would need to put a -s to show that you're signing this commit. But for me, it is automatically done. So I write my message prefixing a commit. I say this is a chore, right? Comment. Let me increase this. Comment a workflow file. Okay, assuming this is enough, right? Oh no, let's wait. Git commit minus a commit workflow file. Let's wait. Changes not staged commit. Who can tell the issue? I didn't add, right? So I'm supposed to first add. This. So when I add, I come back and I run my git commit message. So it shows that the file has been changed and it is no longer showing that it has been modified. Then I git push. This will refuse because this branch doesn't exist upstream. It's the first time it is being made. So what I do, I don't type the full commit. I just do git push so that it gives me what I'm supposed to actually run. So once we have pushed our branch, we get back to our repository. Now we were working with Git, but now we are back in GitHub because we have made the change, we are comfortable with it, and now it's time to do what? To publish it for the outside world to see. So it already shows that I have made a change here on this branch. So I compare, go ahead to make a pull request, right? Pull request. So pull request, important to note, it always shows what branch you're working on the right, and what is the base, where are you seeking to merge this. So if I had mine here, I would be breaking our GitHub workflow. Why? Because in this company, our Git flow is first do on a feature branch, then merge it into dev. But also it's automatically showing dev because dev is my default branch. As you can see, it's showing a default tag. So PR template that we were speaking about, because we have it set up in the .github in the workflows folder, it automatically comes here for us. So what issue is being closed by that PR? Remember, it was issue number 41, right? If I get it correct, yeah, issue number 41. So the hash is already there. When I type 41, this automatically goes to GitHub issue and it picks it up, right? What did we change? Commented a workflow file, right? Why are we doing this? Maybe to achieve readability, in that if somebody is to get into our code, they will easily know what the code is doing and at what specific point, right? So how was it tested? I didn't do it locally. Remember, it is an insignificant change, right? So I just X this to show I didn't need to test it since it is a minor change. So if I'm to preview this without creating first, this is how the PR would look this is how the PR would look like. I have checked the changes are basic. Why are we doing this? To achieve readability. What did we change? I just made a comment here, right? But If I didn't have a template set up, again, it would be manyanga in here. I would just come and I write, I have done this and this without not being structured. That was the advantage on using the templates that I was trying to emphasize. You're giving your end user a structured approach of making things that will be easy for you to come and follow. Then probably I'm assigning it to myself because I'm the one who made it. If I come to a label, I can give it a documentation since I'm documenting something. Again, my project, this lies under the demo project. And then this sets, it's a part of the V1 release. So we are working to make a release. We have a milestone set, and we want all the issues here to be completed. When I create the pull request, now remember when I said that when code lands into GitHub, that is like the start of DevOps. Now the operations will kick into place. I have my checks that are running. I only have one defined, the CI pipeline, which just runs an npm install to show that this code doesn't break. And then it also runs my tests. But you can have a number here. You can check the commit. You can run your tests separately, whatever you want to do. So because I have it done, what does it say? At least one approving review is required. This was a branch protection that we set. But because I'm the only one working on this, I could cheat and I say, no, let me disable this for now so that I'm able to merge and we set into action, right? So I come into the dev branch. Because it had require a pull request, and under the pull request, it needed an approval made. I don't need this since I'm alone. So save the changes. When I save the changes, this wants to use my password, sorry, here. So if I go back to my PR, right now, it is free to merge. So you see the importance. If you didn't protect that, it would mean whoever makes a PR will just come and just click merge for. But because I'm protecting my branch, I'm enforcing that concept of if only a tech lead has had a look at your code, then you're able to merge this. So I go ahead, I look at the PR, everything looks good, I merge it. When I merge it, if you remember, we had a workflow for when you merge into dev. When you merge into dev, a Docker image is built that tags the PR number. What is the PR number here? 42. Wait, is this 42? Oh, how did I make all those? Anyway, yeah. Huh? It's 41. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So we shall see this by the actions that are running. So you see, every time I come to my GitHub actions here, top, every time you merge into dev, I have workflows that are set. When you merge into dev, let this automatically kick off, right? One of those is deploy to GitHub container registry. So this is where my image is going to be created. And if I come here, I come to packages. So this is the Docker image that I have. I last pushed one a minute ago. You remember the PR number was 42. So it will tag the 42 and then it will pick up the hash commit of what has been done. So if somebody is to reuse this Docker image and it doesn't work as expected, they are automatically going to come and track what is the PR number. So even if this has been automatically closed off, you'll come in closed and look for PR number 42, which is here. This was merged in by me, and then you'll be able to see the changes. Why did this break? Very important fundamental concept when it comes to DevOps. Everything must be traceable. You have to look back at any point in time and know this happened because of this. And for us, we are doing that by just coming to know and see that when we are building an image, why don't we tag it with a PR number? That way, internally, in the culture that we are building, that will work for us, right? If we come back to our actions, the update wiki is being done. Remember, we are using our wiki for what? For documentation and keeping track of the what? Of the tasks. So what do we expect after this has run? That this one has been done. It was still under to do, but it should move to done. So that way, if there is a PM who must track, they can easily come and see, okay, if we had a milestone set that was supposed to be achieved on the 19th, and we have these tasks to do, you can easily gauge and know if you have been productive or not. So this has run comment code, gods of demo. Yeah, you see, it has automatically moved to done. So again, going back to the topic of why we are doing this, we are doing this entirely in GitHub. You can see we are trying to form a way to automate stuff. It might not be standardized across your company, his company, but we are trying to build something that will be a foundation for each and every person, and how we are automating as much as we can just from the functionalities in GitHub. So a product owner, whoever is a tech lead, they are able to track the tasks as they are closed. But that is not the end. We are yet to complete this task. Why? Because now it is merged into dev, but we need to release a patch, right? So how do we release a patch? How do we merge into the other one? By creating a pull request that seeks to merge from dev into main. And we only do this when we are going to make a release, right? So I'm comparing dev, this arrow pointing this side. I want to merge this into the main branch. When you click this, it will automatically show you what has changed. This is the change that is in dev, but is missing on main, right? So when we do this, we are fine with what we have seen, previewed, then again, the PR template. So again, here we think of what do we want to like release? We are releasing a patch. And from what we have defined, we can release a patch if we use one of these prefixes as a thing on the PR. So in this case, we can use docs, right? So we can say docs comment code. So when this is merged, a patch has to be bumped. But maybe before we go there, let us see. I have been playing with some of the releases yesterday when I was trying to prepare this. So we are on version 2.0.0. When we do a patch, we expect 2.0.1, right? Since that is the patch at the extreme end, insignificant change. So what does this close? We can forego this since this has already been done, or the task has already been tagged already on dev, or maybe, but no. Again, this comes into the culture. Do we want to break what we have already built? No, we don't want to break. So the name of the task is release code comment to main, right? Add this, our PR template must come up, development future, feed in what we need, blah, blah, medium. Again, this is low, labels, DevOps, since we are charged with making a release, right? So our issue has been done. When we come to this PR, what does this close? I didn't see the issue number. 43, right? So closes 43. Yes. What did we change? Releasing code comment to production, to live. Why are we doing this? Again, we are using our same thing, readability, and we didn't need to because the changes are basic, right? I hope you're following on the pattern. Same thing that we did in dev is what we're just bringing on main. Sign it to myself, label, probably CI/CD since I'm going to be releasing it. Projects, we are still working on our projects. and we are on track for our milestone for being able to release the V1, right? So create a pull request. When this has been created, most importantly, we are merging from dev to main. You might be wondering, why are we merging two commits into main, yet we have done one? Every time you make a PR and you merge, after the PR is merged, it automatically creates another PR for you. So the PR that we did on our feature branch is not the PR that we find here. Yeah, that's just a by the way. So again, our checks here, CI/CD pipeline was required. So we have run our tests and npm install. Then we have already an image that has been deployed into dev since it is dependent on this, right? So when we do this, GitHub protection branches, again, we are blocked because we require an approval. But again, as I've said, since I'm the only one on the thing, I will also take a shortcut here and go to main and do the very same thing that I have done. So I will not be requiring a pull request so that I'm able to merge directly. On real work company, this must not be allowed. You have to have a reviewer see your code and then you merge. I'm just doing it here to save time so that we move quickly. So our code should be able to merge now. We are merging into main. And what do we expect? A release is going to be cut and a Docker image tagged latest is also going to be made for us. So come back on our actions to monitor what is running, and true to form, they are the ones. Update wiki because our issues have changed. We had an issue created. It has been modified and referenced in the PR template by clause, so it will automatically be moved to done. Then here we are preparing our release, but also we are deploying the image to main called what? The repo name. So if we come to packages, yeah, so the workflow is still running. That's why we only have the Docker image that was built on dev, okay? Here we go, less than a minute ago. You see the tag on this, it's for latest to show that here we have tested the code, we're okay with it, so we are tagging it with the latest. It means that if somebody is to pull this image and work with it, Docker pull this without specifying latest, sorry, without specifying that they are working with a dev image, it automatically pulls the latest tag by default. Every time you do a Docker pull, the latest is pulled by default. So we have our image published. So if we are to go back to check on our other workflows that are running, I hope the release is done and it doesn't shame me. Actions, yeah, still running, but our wiki is done. So when we go to wiki in the meantime, how come this hasn't moved? So we are going to debug this live. Why isn't it moving? This is our docs, right? And we are tagging our issues that are opened or closed. We go back to the PR to check what kind of issue did we put. Comment closes 43. Is this the same 43 that is still stuck? Let's check. To do, yeah, it is 43. Why hasn't it moved? There should be an issue, right? There should be an issue. Close 43 that actually tracks it. Maybe we need to hard reset something. Please. Yeah, main. So you see main. So probably this shows us that there is something that could be broken, and how do we debug that? Let us first try going to the settings, and this is where you set your workflows. What's the page called? Just a minute. How do you set workflows? How do you set workflows? No, pardon? No, not for the repo. Yeah, I think they're for the repo. Let us issues. No, it's actually in issues. Yeah, really is it. So go to settings for the issues. And then what we are interested in are the workflows. There should be workflows here that where scroll down. Huh? So basically, what's happening is that there's a settings where you set if an issue is moved or merged to dev, then mark it as done. I just need to add the same for mine. I don't know rules, no. GitHub actions. Actions. Are there any settings here? Probably on wiki. But in the meantime, I think our release has been run and done. Let me first check this and show you. I'm gonna get that in a minute. I'm going to debug it. I know where it's supposed to be set. So we have to go back to our PR. If you realize something in the PR that I closed, right? We use docs, okay? Come to the actions. Oh, this is still running. This is a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Supposed to have run in a few minutes and finished, but we shall give it some time for it to run and complete. And I think it was still being queued. We're still in the queue, so but it will finish up in a minute. So when this is done again, as I said, we expect our patch to be 2.0.1. Try to speed it up. Stephen, aren't we past our time? Still on track. Okay, we have a few minutes left. Okay. Okay, so our workflow is still running. Don't know why it's slow. It's not supposed to take this long. But yeah, we shall give it time. In the meantime, we can try to debug why this is not running. There is a setting somewhere. I don't know if anyone can help if they've done this before. There is a settings that actually huh? Really? This goes to repo setting. Huh? Is this again the repo settings? Yeah. Wait. Wiki. Edit. Yeah, I think it's an edit. No, but here we are editing. Just a minute. Let me first go back. Probably. Huh? It what? No homework. No, it's not homework. To make it easy. Yeah, there is a setting where you define your workflows. Where is it? So you remember when I told you that you clone a wiki like separately? Every time you go to a wiki, it has a command here for cloning. That's because when you clone the repo of code, you don't actually get this. So you have to clone the repo. Is our workflow still running? No, I think our workflow is done. So let us go to GitHub DevOps JavaScript, and we should see our release, right? Here is our release for 2.0.1. And it will also give you the what has changed in terms of the PR numbers that have gone in. So if you are to be keen and note the releases that were done here, this was the initial release. This was me laying the foundation for all this code. So the incremental testing these things and how they are working. The subsequent releases will only give you what has changed in the specific amount of time. So does this give you a picture of how to use like releases? Yes, please, have a question.
Yeah. So I think by checking out some open source code,
yeah,
I've noticed that notice changed.
Yeah.
they make it.
So we can actually, that was my next point. This can be customized in a way. You can work with bash scripts to write whatever you want. For example, if we go on the Kubernetes releases, right? And you check out their GitHub repos, you see how they look like. So same concept, what they do, you build your code, you test it out. If it's ready to be installed, go ahead, cut a release. So this way you're telling the public that we have a version put out, it is ready to be done. So the difference between the notes that you see here and the notes that I have is that I automatically generate from the logs that are being provided on the UI. So every time you make a PR, GitHub will automatically compile your changes into the list of PRs that you have done and put them for you there. But these guys, they take it a step higher because they have some other links that they are embedding in here. They customize it in a way that you put all the information that you need. This can also be done in our own way. So we can come and customize. Now, what we saw as the change log, what changed and the full change log, the Kubernetes team, basically they put a thing in here. And when they put a thing in here, again, they customize them on 2 pages. But when you come down here, other than the artifacts that have been shared in code, still you realize they customize what kind of changes they added with an origin this, and this was done maybe in this and by this guy, and whoever did it is from this company, right? So the power again for GitHub and being able to play with it is that you can customize whatever you want to work with. But remember, we are not using any external tool, no Jenkins, no nothing, but we are deploying our code. If we are working on the cloud, AWS, we can come in here, set a workflow that will get into a server to get in there, then to deploy our Node.js app for us. The power again of GitHub is that we have not used any external tool. We are just within the same thing that we are working with at our disposal. So I hope this is clear for everybody. Again, culture. If there's somebody here, you work for a company and you don't release like this, you won't say I'm wrong. No. The power of DevOps is that you're able to automate what works for you. Again, as I've said, assuming this is a company and I'm the CTO, we are trying to build our own culture that actually works for us. As we grow in numbers, the changes might differ. We might have to look at other external tools, for example, paid tools, and how do they help us scale if you're looking at the concept of security. But for the scope of this event and presentation and what GitHub has to offer, you can see that you have the packages. I could decide to also add an NPM thing here. I publish my package and it will be used, but I'm doing my releases and everybody is able to come here and they install the software. I do have another task that implement a new feature request of centralized workflows. So this is important. You have to see how it works. Yeah, my thing is full. My wife is the one who does this. Don't worry. I'm not untidy. So when we come to centralized workflows, again, remember, this is where our other repo will come in, the DevOps Python. So we have not done anything is this. It's just there as an example to show that if we have a number of other repositories in here, if maybe they are existing somewhere, what we want to do is we want to centrally manage these workflows, right? So I'm on, what branch am I on? I'm on dev, right? And I want to test out centralized workflows. And when I do, I have to make a minor release. So this will automatically work depending on the prefix that you use, as you saw in the workflow. And by the way, this code is available on my GitHub, Scott45. You can go clone the repo, play with it, customize, do whatever you want to do. I just made it as a foundation to show this, but you can clone, customize. You can even send in your peers if you think I've done something wrong and it has to be done correctly. I wouldn't mind for us to compare notes and see what we can do with it. But to just demo centralized workflows, working on, so I have a separate repository called centralized workflows. I think it is somewhere, I don't know. Had I pushed it? Most probably. Let's see, yeah. GitHub centralized, yeah. So GitHub workflows, here it is. So you can see this repo exists and we want to be storing our things in here. So the task is that we have new workflows that we want to introduce. If you have been seeing on the PRs that are being made, the only running workflow has been for CI. But we are saying that as we are growing, actually, we want to enforce signed commits. But also, we are checking our PRs. There are prefixes that we do expect, right? So meaning, if you make a PR and you don't use prefixes that are defined here, there will be a failure, an X, like on your build, and that would mean that you have to go back, you iterate, you make it better, then you push again. So we want to introduce this to a number of PRs. If you're working in the open source environment and you have a number of PRs, a number of repositories, maybe 70 or 80 or whatever number it is, all you have to do, again, remember, have a sync workflow in this folder, then have them defined here. So the repos that I'm working with is the one for JavaScript and Python. Anti-patterning design for defining this in the file. Again, what I will do if I was working on a real team, create a repos.txt file, feed my repos in there, then read from that file. So I just did this for this specific thing of the demo. So when we have this, allow me not to go into the workflow since we have a few minutes left. So I think I will work directly on dev, right? Yeah, on dev. So the normal workflow would have been go create an issue, merge to dev. After merging to dev, create a future branch. I add these on, but I have already done them on dev. After doing them on dev, these PRs will automatically be created in the other repositories, right? The most important thing or shortcut that I'm going to take is every time you have a workflow file and you see workflow dispatch, I hope you know what that means. It means that you're able to trigger this workflow in a manual way. So I don't have to push or commit anything. Whenever a condition on is workflow dispatch, this means that I can come in this repository called workflows, right? I go to my actions, I get my sync workflows, and then I trigger this. So I can trigger this basing off the dev branch. It's a shortcut to what I would have done if I had made a PR and all that. This is made possible whenever you see workflow dispatch, or if you have a workflow that you want to probably run in a manual way without any automation, you just include that. So I'm going to trigger this from the dev branch and have it run. What will this do? Again, it will look into the two repositories that we have defined, check if we have a folder called .github. If it's not there, it will create it. After creating it, it will create a .github folder in there. Sorry, it will create a workflows folder in there and add the workflows that have been defined or that don't exist. Otherwise, if the .github already exists and maybe two of these are there, it will add the one which doesn't exist. But in this case, since these are all new, we expect them to be what? Automatically added via a PR. So how far is our workflow? This has run. Let us get into the JavaScript code, go to pull requests. We should see a second one, sync workflows from central repositories. Imagine you are doing this for a number of repositories that you are going to work on. It would actually take ages. What workflows were defined in here? These are the three: GPG verify, labels, and PR conventional commits. If we come back to this PR that has been made, you will see these are the same files that are actually being sought to be introduced in the repo. Do you see the power of this and how it can help you to automate as easy as you want? So again, still on GitHub, we have not used any tool, no scripting, just workflows and what GitHub avails to us to be able to accomplish this. So we have the PR. What do? We just have to come, review, and approve. Pull request template and the power. You see what this does? I don't know what this means. Most probably I might never read because a template has not been defined in the PR that I'm working. A template has not been defined in the workflows repo whenever I'm creating a PR to merge this. And you might need to see this in the sync workflows script. So basically, this is the logic that does this. Nothing really is major. Just do authentication, clone a repo that has been defined, check if this exists. If they don't exist, create them, add this, create a branch, you copy them over, then just make sure that they exist. Then when they exist, the point we create a PR. I think it is somewhere here. I think, yeah, this is the body. So you remember the GitHub API and the CLI. This is the GitHub CLI that we are using to create a what? To create a PR. What is the command? No, PR, open, create one. Then it's a specific command here. 16? 162, yeah. GitHub PR create. So this is like the CLI. So basically it's what we are like playing with. But anyway, back to the point, centralized workflows. We didn't have to edit or clone this repo first, then we add them in there. Because if you have a number of repositories that you're working with, you are prone to make an error, right? But the fact that we just have a PR that has been made for us, what do we need to do? Just come review it, and if it's all right, merge it in. And when you merge it in, the changes will automatically be done. So when we go to our JavaScript repo and we go to our .github and we go to workflows, you can see our new ones have been automatically introduced in. Time saving, but also it reduces the chance of having to make an error, right? Otherwise, if you have a number of repositories, you do segment well and the one wrongly, then you have to go back in. I hope this demonstrates the power of the GitHub workflows. The other thing that probably I want to show, allow me, I won't make this other one to do a release of merging in from main to measure, but you know now the logic of how to bump, measure, main, and whatever, just the PR template, change the prefix, and then work with that. Then this leads us to the power of scripting. I want to touch this as the last bit before we finalize, Stephen. So in our workflows repository, again, please, this code is on my GitHub. Feel free to clone and play with whatever way that you want to. I have this folder called scripts. I use this a lot. I work across multiple repositories in a day or in a week. And sometimes my manager will say, create a branch across all these, back up our dev right there. In a manual way, what do I have to do? I have to get into the UI, click. But then the power of the GitHub API and scripting, I do have a couple of these. I actually have about 10 scripts or so for my operations only in GitHub, but I'm just going to show two, right? You remember when we were doing our merges, we unchecked the GitHub protection. Let me move this closer. So I'm able to track SAP. So if we come here, you realize when we were merging our repos, we played with the settings for the branch protection, right? When you go to dev, currently we don't require a pull request. Where is the power of scripting, and why am I going to demo this? Assuming you are standardizing operations, again, DevOps on GitHub, we have our branches. This is how we protect them. This script, what it will do is I will define my repos that I want to work with. Again, an anti-pattern here. This is supposed to be defined in a repos.txt or whatever it is. Then you read from it. That way it will be smarter and neater. It's an anti-pattern, but I'm just doing it here. And when I'm working with these repositories, they are in my organization as Scott 45 on GitHub, and I'm working with the branches mine and dev, right? So this logic is going to pull a script, and this script, it is a JSON thing that reads from the GitHub API to set those branch protection things that we need, right? So if you can see here, approving required, I need 2 or 3 or whatever it is. What do I have to do? Basically, the first thing, ensure that am I in the right? Yeah, branch protection. Ensure the script is executable. So change mode, main.sh. That way it will be able to run when it is executable. Another key point is that you have to be authenticated on the GitHub CLI, right? So after authentication, just run this script. And when you run the script, what do we expect to happen? Iterate through these repos, look for the main and the dev branch that live in this organization, which is my username, pull in this script, and then configure this to have them run automatically. So if I run this, as you can see, it is running through the repos. It is processing JavaScript main, ensuring it is protected, going to dev, ensuring it is protected. So sometimes you find a company or a team, they are working on GitHub, they have repositories, but the way they are doing the branch protection is not necessarily standardized. Like, what is the power of this script? Is the fact that it doesn't matter if I have 70 repositories or whatever it is, I'm automating on GitHub, run once, and by the time the script is done, I expect all my branches to be done. So it iterated through the 3. And if we come back here and we reload this, this should be what? It should be automatically set. Does that make sense? Again, this is one of the ways that you can work with GitHub. And specifically to you as a DevOps engineer, when you're doing your ops, how do you set these things that a team must abide by? We are still on GitHub and all this functionality is available. Not many people use it, but contributing in the open source from my own experience has been, you're working on a passionate project. There is no money or financing, but you want to work at a high level whereby you're doing things that a team with all the money to buy all the tools that they need, the Git hooks and all that will do this for them. You're trying to do the same. And that's why, again, I will encourage that if you have the bandwidth at time, you get into the open source community, see how these things are done. Man, the learnings are immense. I remember in my first 2 years, I used to wonder, why am I even here? But you get to know how different people are solving solutions. So just like that, imagine if it's somebody having to get into and configure it one by one. We have been able to do this. Another thing that we want to do is assuming they find a bug in probably a multi-repo application that has been set up. So it can be, how do I explain to make it easier? A number of repositories, and we say we want to back up code at any point in time, right? We are working on the dev branch, but we have found an issue on the main, and before we merge, let us back up the dev branch. There's that one for creating another branch. So I can create a script that will create a branch, and then it will automatically do it. It will automatically, sorry, I will create a branch, then I come here, I add the branch to make it protected, right? To just make it protected. So assuming I was creating one called demo, after creating it through a script, a similar script, I just add it there. I run this again, and then I have standardized branch protection rules across everything. Again, it is the power of having to automate in such a way. The other script I want to demo, last one probably, is making PRs dev to main or whatever it is. So this brings us back to do our task. I had said I want to do it, but allow us to do it, please. After we have done centralized workflows, it says release a mainer, right? And when do we release? When we merge dev to main. So come to this script that does dev to main. It has my title. And after the title in there, I have embedded a PR template since I'm tired of the other thing and how it works. So I need a structured way for getting what has been changed, right? So I have embedded in a PR title. I use, again, the GitHub CLI PR create. Again, we are just relying on scripting. So I'm sure you guys have heard of the fact that a DevOps engineer, they script a lot. This is what I mean by scripting. In that, if I'm making a release every other month and I'm creating these PRs in a manual way, we just have to do it twice, and my mind will tell me, no, there's an opportunity here for automating. How do you do that? You script with Python, script with Bash, script with Golang, whichever you're comfortable with. Scripting has been a part of my life for long. I can literally script anything as long as I need to. So here I'm saying I'm just creating the PR. And since we are releasing what? We are bumping a mainer, right? What is the thing for a mainer? We are just doing fit without an exclamation mark. So this comes in the title. So we can even set it in here. So assuming the release is uniform across a number of repositories, again, the anti-pattern I was explaining up here, you see here we have a repos.txt and we are reading from it. It's supposed to be this way. Then I iterate through the repos file. I get what I need. Then I go ahead and I configure. This is a good pattern of scripting. So I want to create, since I'm bumping the mainer from the thing, I will remove the exclamation. And once I remove the exclamation, our PR is set. I'm merging dev to main. Again, what do I have to do? Nothing much really. I think I had created a tab for this already. Yeah, dev to main. So we make this executable, right? It is dev to main. No, it is also main.sh. You know how to make stuff executable. Plus sh. Then after doing that, yep. So when I run this script will go to my JavaScript repository. It will check on the dev branch and the main branch, compare them. Are there new changes that have to move from dev to main? Yes, they are there. So for the release that we made in the first time, you saw me clicking around on GitHub, create, set a branch. But this way, I'm still able to automate this. And I don't need to look. I just have to come back and check, has my PR been created? Yes, it has been created by this. So you can see we have increased on our workflows. And because we have increased on our workflows, we have a failing thing. Why is it failing? It automatically shows that the signed commit is not set. And because our commit is not signed, the workflow will fail. Again, these are some of the checks that you will have to set in. Now, this might work for the culture that we are building. You might not need it in your company, so you won't need this. But you see, this is failing. I have to go ahead and I fix it. The other thing that I did, auto label the PRs. So when this PR was created, I need an auto label for needs review, right? So it automatically adds a needs review. I think that is the correct thing I said. Yeah, it has to automatically label it as needs review. Again, you can play with this, you customize whichever way you want. You can add a reviewer all with the CLI and by calling the GitHub API. So after doing this, we have a filing workflow. Because the commit hasn't yet been signed, longer way to do this. But remember, we have another broker. We have run the script and now it requires 3 approving thing. Why? Because we have set our branch protection again. What is the easiest way to undo this? Not in a manual way. Get back to our script. Then get back to our script. I can decide to say, I can decide to set this to false, or maybe if I have a reviewer, set it to 1 and I rerun it again, right? So set this to false. I don't have to go again in the GitHub UI and I click things around, just manipulating this like through a script. And once this is done, the PR will automatically be ready to move, to be merged. You can actually test it out. Just a minute. Just a minute, I see something. Is this the minor branch? Yeah, so we don't need to appear. I just want to check something. So since we are working with the main branch, yeah, you see, I have like disabled it in a manual way. So just to check that when I run this again, it will automatically go to configure it. We check and then it should not be merged, right? So dev to main. If I run this again, right now there's the ability to merge. I can merge it. But so you find a developer who has done a thing like that, and then I'm able to merge without a thorough review. If I come back to check, you can see merging is blocked. So what is the power and what do we learn from this? Sometimes you find a DevOps engineer who is so obsessed about tools, want this tool. But in actual sense, this gives you a glimpse that if you're working on GitHub, sometimes you have all you need. You just have to know how to work with it, right? How to play with it, see what kind of culture can you build around it, and then you get going as the money comes, as you work for other teams, then the fundamentals will automatically translate into you gaining the experience and learning to work with other tools. It will be easy since you'll already be knowing the fundamentals. And that's the beauty about DevOps, is the fact that if you have learned how to design a CI pipeline, it doesn't matter if you're doing it on Circle CI, on GitHub workflows, the fundamentals will always guide you. It's just a matter of you changing the syntax. Same goes with the cloud providers. Yeah, I hope this has been sort of eye-opening. Again, it was my goal in that if I inspire 1 or 2 people, it's all I need, and you get to see the power of GitHub and how to use it. For me, this would have been a success in my own way. But yeah, GitHub, it's a very powerful tool. Every time I go to, like every time I want to do something, unless GitHub can't do it, it's when I will go out to look for another tool. But most times GitHub has really been enough for me, from doing releases to CI/CD to what, to name it. So I will welcome questions, observations, comments. It's not necessarily you asking. It can be you have noticed something. As we merge our PR for a what? What's this? We are bumping a minor, right? So we expect 2.1.0. Like if you update 100 to 101, when you come to a minor, it automatically disqualifies the other one. So you don't get a 111. So it's like you have moved to a new level, it becomes 110. You get, so we should be expecting here a 2, right? Is it a 2? A 210. No, a 220. Yeah, a 220, since we are bumping the minor, and it will have the thing. So yeah, you could have been perusing through the GitHub UI. You see all these tools, Helm, Kubernetes, they are using milestones, they are using the project, the issues. I have tried to encompass all those and how they fit together to show you that it is actually possible to build on GitHub, to automate on GitHub, and to have a full DevOps lifecycle end to end without even having to use another tool. If I was working on the cloud, it's just as easy as adding a what? A workflow that actually deploys onto the cloud. I think